just get everyone to send me a message. Have people used Teams before? Just if you could really quickly in the message board, write down a one-word answer on how you are doing today. I'm gonna give you guys about 3 minutes to do that. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of amazings, a lot of greats, a lot of doing well, some goods. NJ's tired. NJ, I feel you. I have like a coffee and I have a backup coffee with me today, so I'm working on a caffeine high. Okay, cool. So now that everyone's used the message feature, update solidarity. Yep, you got that spot on, NJ. Yeah, I need a lot of coffee to get through the day. You know, reviewing your claims is such hard work. So what I was gonna say is now that you guys all use the chat feature, certainly feel free to come off of mute and ask questions. That'll certainly break up the monotony of my voice. But also, if you don't want to come off of mute, if you haven't had enough coffee, please feel free to use that chat feature as a way to ask questions too. And, from time to time, we'll scroll through it after each section and answer whatever questions are in the chat feature. Also, I do want to say that this is the full-length training, and it's mostly geared towards people who are new to the program or have never done claims before. So with that, I know that tomorrow is going to be an abbreviated version, and it should be a lot shorter. So what I'm going to say is if you feel as though you don't need the full training, you could come to tomorrow's training and that'll start at 2 o'clock. Nigel, am I right about that?
You are correct.
Okay. Or if you don't need the full version but are unavailable tomorrow at 2, I'll be giving the information that you really need to know about SSO at around 10:40. So if you kind of want to leave the meeting now and come back at 10:40, that's also another option for you. Okay, so I just want to put that out there and give people the opportunity to get 30 minutes back um, on their day. And I see Chris Bolton's taking that option. Okay, Chris. Um, so yeah, so I mean, but everyone feel free. I will be going through the SSO stuff starting at around 10:40. So if you don't feel like you need to know um, everything else or already know it or well versed in it, feel free to drop off and come back on at 10:40 or 2 o'clock tomorrow. Okay, so with that, thank you all very much for attending the claims training. What we're going to go through today is kind of a detailed view of what claims are, different processes and things like that. But before I pull up the PowerPoint, I do want to state that, I know that this year is very much a transition period for you guys coming back to school, being there full time. And towards the later part of the year, for some of you, we're going to have another transition. Now, because mostly everyone here is new, over the last couple of years, we've been working pretty hard to automate this process and include it in Orchard. So for some of you, that is actually going to happen in the middle of the year. So around February, we're hoping to pilot claims in Orchard. Okay. But we are going to the full rollout isn't going to happen until next September. So we decided to move forward with this training because even if claims aren't Orchard, we're hoping to use this training as a good way for you guys to set up internal processes in order to make the Orchard transition a lot smoother. So even if you get onboarded in February or next September, we want to set you up for success, and that's the main reason why, we decided to go full steam ahead with this full training. And also, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but for all of you who have already done a claim, you know that that claim book is only valid through December, okay? So in December, you guys should expect to see from me a new claim book, and we'll talk more about why and things like that a little later on. But I'm going to say that multiple times throughout the training because I want to make sure that you guys are aware that if you're on SSO, that claim book has an expiration date, and that's the month of December. You'll still use it for December, but in January, you'll start using a new claim book. And we'll go into why a little bit later on. Okay. One sec. Just gonna pull up the PowerPoint now. Okay. And I'm just gonna get confirmation from you that you can see this PowerPoint.
Yes, sir. I can see it.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys, so welcome to the school program's monthly claims and reimbursement training. Today's agenda is introduction of claims, orchard application, entitlement reference, claim data, forms and edit checks, submission process, payment inquiries, the types of notifications we send along. And if we were in person, we'd have a hands-on activity, but since we're not, we'll have a group activity instead, and then just simply the closing. Okay. So today's objectives: simplify the monthly submission process, improve record maintenance, identify data discrepancies, successfully complete a sample claim, and that's the thing we'll do as a group. But as a way of getting started really quickly, I just, for some of you who have already done a claim, how are you guys feeling about the claim process? If we could go again back to the chat box and just write down one word about how you're feeling about the claim process, that would be great. I'll give about another 2 to 3 minutes to that. And Teresa Jackson asks, is this training pertaining to child development centers or schools? This is only school claims. So if you're in CACFP or SFSP or some other iteration of that program, then this isn't the training for you. I know that there's a separate process for that team. Yeah, so Teresa, this isn't the correct training. I'll have that team or Nigel reach out to you, but they're separate teams, so this isn't the correct training for you. Okay, great. So great. So good. Everyone's feeling good about them, user friendly. I see easy. Okay, let's see if we can make it a little bit easier. And it's going to be easier this year because it isn't as strenuous. Okay, so today we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the National School Lunch Program. I know that everyone here has had a training on the ins and outs of the program. And today we're talking about how you get reimbursed through this program. So just to kind of give you a brief overview, back in the day, actually it was post World War I, pre-World War II. The nation was kind of, and this is just a small history, was kind of in a crunch about what to do with their kids, right? Because we had just fought in a war. And one thing we noticed about that is that a lot of the soldiers were malnutritioned, underfed. Okay, so a lot of these 18-year-olds just couldn't stand up to the rigors of war because they were underfed. So the federal government put their heads together and said, hey, we've really got to do something about this problem. Now, granted, I'm not going to take a position on should we go to war or not, but if our kids, their thought process was if our kids aren't healthy enough to go to war, that means, strenuous physical activity, then we've really got to solve this issue. So what they did was, the biggest impact they could have is through the schools. And they decided
I'm not
to,
on SVCP.
sorry, whoever just signed on, please mute your line. And they decided to, kind of come up with this program and fund this program so that the nation's kids were not underfed and could stand up to the rigorous physical activity that meant, that it means when you're a soldier. But since then, the program has really evolved, and, I want to really kind of specify and talk about the impact that you as schools are having on the nutrition and health of the kids. For a lot of you, and you all know this, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but for a lot of students in this area, and it's kind of sad to say, but their school meals are the biggest meals that they're going to have throughout the day. And without you guys and without this program, we'd be in a really bad situation. So over the years, this program really evolved. And thankfully, it's no longer about um, having our kids be healthy enough to become soldiers. Now it's more about, having our kids being healthy enough so that they can stand up to the rigors of learning in their everyday lives. So I just kind of wanted to put that as out there as an intro, that you guys are doing such critical work at your schools, and that's why we, as the state agency, want to make sure that you're maximizing your reimbursement for these programs as much as possible. And thankfully, this year, and I'll talk about the different things that are happening this year, there's more support to that program. I will say, as a state agency, we're hoping it continues. But we also know that the likelihood of this program reimbursed at this year's rates is very low. But fingers crossed, things will change. Things may change. We certainly want to see this pandemic go away, but what we don't want to see go away is the level of support that all of you are seeing right now. So for more information, you guys have all received the PowerPoint, but you can click on the NSLP fact sheet below. Okay, so what's different this year? So in previous years, you guys would get reimbursed through what's called the NSLP program, and you're still being reimbursed through this program. But what the federal government and USDA has done is, in situations for emergency, there's this kind of offshoot program called the Seamless Summer Option. Now, the CACFP and Child Development Centers sites, they usually use this program, or, very similar programs through the summer. But this is the Seamless Summer Option is the vehicle in which the federal government deals with emergencies. Okay, so let's say there's a natural disaster, and schools aren't able to be attended in person, and but like these kids still need to be fed. Then a state agency can activate an emergency posture, and schools in that district can use this as an option to feeding their kids when, for some reason kids can't get to that school. So what the situation this pandemic's created is that all of last year we used this option because, schools were closed. And this year it's been transformed a little bit more so that we were able to include almost all of you in this program. Now, I know that maybe some of you that are just sticking with the regular NSLP program for different reasons, but the majority of you should be using the Seamless Summer option, or SSO. So there are some differences, and when we go through the claims, we'll talk about it more. But basically, some of the benefits we see for the program is there's less paperwork, making it easier for you guys to feed your kids. And the biggest reason why we pushed it really hard is that this essentially makes all your meals free for the kids at the school, and you can claim all your meals as free, no matter what your CP rate is, no matter what your applications say, all your meals just get claimed at that free rate. And when we go over the rates, you'll see that the SSO option, their rates are a lot higher than the NSLP rates. And, it really lessens the administrative burden for us as a state agency and for you guys as a school. So we didn't have to think about CP rates this year. We didn't have to think about 2 cents and 7 cents and all the other different qualifiers, severe need. We will talk about all of that today, again, as a foundation and in preparation for next year. But it was nice, believe me, because I do a lot of work to make sure you guys qualify for those programs. So it was nice not to have to do all that extra paperwork and crunch all those extra numbers to make sure you guys were getting the maximum reimbursements. So great. Well, I'm not going to stop here. I'm just going to keep going and talk about the rates. So if you're part of the NSLP program this year, these are your rates, and in the notes section, there'll be links to that. It's pretty standard, you know, and we'll go over what severe need versus non-severe need is. We'll also go over what the standard rate is and what 2 cents and 7 cents are. But what should interest most of you is that as part of the SSO program, unfortunately, you can't claim all 3 meals. You can only claim 2. And what we said at the beginning of the year is the 2 meals that you should be claiming under SSO is breakfast and lunch. Because, very simple reason. If you look down here below, at the after school snack program, because we've declared ourselves as area eligible. So that means we basically determined that all our snacks should be free. Every one of you gets $1 per snack under NSLP. Now under SSO, you would get an additional 2 cents because snacks under SSO are $1.02. But because SSO only lets you claim 2 meals at once, we much prefer that you claim breakfast and lunch, because with those 2 meals, every school is getting an additional 40 to 60 cents over the NSLP rates, right? So that extra 40 to 60 cents is worth a lot more than the extra 2 cents you would get for snack under the SSO program. That's why we pushed everyone to claim breakfast and lunch under SSO and snack under NSLP. And so here are the rates for Seamless Summer. Again, like I said, this program is much simpler. It's not broken down between breakfast, regular breakfast, and severe need breakfast. So you just get the standard rate at 2.4625. And I'm just going back to show you that, like, even if you were on severe need, your reimbursement would only be $235. If you were on regular breakfast, it would be $197 for that free category. Now, but the other thing you have to keep in mind is that under NSLP, your meals would be broken down into free, reduced, and paid, where, if you served 100 breakfast, you would, and I'm just kind of making this up, but you would put 33 breakfast under free, 33 under reduced price, and 33 under paid, and you see the diminishing returns under each meal category. Well, for SSO, you get that $2.46 for every meal. So, those 100 breakfasts are automatically free, and you get that $2.46 for all of them. Lunch, the same thing. Right now it's at $4.31. The highest rate that any school could get for a free lunch is $3.75, right? But then again, you're in the same situation where if you served 100 lunches, you would have to break that down depending on what your school qualified for into free, reduced, and paid. But under SSO, all of your lunches are reimbursed at that $4.31 rate. Now, one quick thing I do want to say, and we've seen the situation happen twice already, is that if you're under SSO, unfortunately, I have to say that our payment system is from the 80s, guys. So, for those of you who are in professional positions in the 80s, you'll know that like the early iterations of Microsoft and things like that weren't that great. Well, they were great for the time, but now it's gotten way better. But unfortunately, that presents us with the unique challenge that our internal payment system wasn't set up for 4 numbers after the decimal point. And what we found is that with some reimbursements, it's off by 1 penny because of rounding. So what that means is that, and again, it's only happened twice, but I do want to warn you guys that, it may be that instead of getting a reimbursement back where we owe you 7 cents, we might only be able to pay you out 6 cents because our rounding in the back end isn't correct. So maybe you'll get an email from me saying, hey, we're going to kind of short you a penny because of this challenge we found. And unfortunately, it would take way more money for us to fix our old system, and we'd rather invest that money in Orchard and, completely solve that problem. But I just wanted to put that out there that in some cases, you might get an email from me saying, hey, just FYI, there's gonna be a 1 penny shortage on your federal reimbursement because of this situation. Okay. Now I'm gonna stop right here and check the chat real quick to see if I am missing anything. Okay. Okay, so one of the questions I got from Hazel, and everyone can see my screen so they can read it, is not familiar with the lingo, and I'm very sorry about that. You're absolutely right. I should probably stop talking in kind of USDA slang, um, which is kind of the dorkiest slang ever, to be honest with you. But so SFA means School Food Authority, and in layman's terms, that basically means school. So in other states that are more complicated, School Food Authority, that label means a lot more. So like if you were kind of a bigger school, there might be the possibility that other schools are under you. They're not part of your school, but you're managing their lunch programs. And so you would be the school food authority, and then the other schools wouldn't have that designation. Here in this area, that really doesn't happen. So for us, school food authority just means schools. And the other term we use to refer to schools is LEA, and that's local education agency. So, those are kind of 2 acronyms that we throw out there a lot. And I'm sure if you reach out to your specialist, they've got an ongoing list of acronyms. So if you ever wanted some fun reading and to be able to talk the USDA slang, I would definitely reach out to them and see if they'd provide you with their ongoing list of acronyms. And then I said that breakfast and lunch should definitely be claimed under SSO. And if you do run the snack program, you should claim it under NSLP. Okay? Great. So I don't see any more questions. And I'm going to move on, but please make sure that if you have a question, you either come off mute or just drop it in here. And I actually have connected my Teams to my phone and therefore my Apple Watch, so I get a little buzz whenever you ask questions. So I'm on it, guys. Okay, so 2 cents and 7 cents. This for the majority of you, does not apply this year. Okay? Because SSO, under SSO, you guys can't get your menu performance certification and I'm blanking on what the extra 2 cents stands for. But essentially these are escalators within the program, right? So how we calculate these is we look at past performance, and if you reach a certain level of free and reduced, and for 7 cents, that is 60%, and for 2 cents, that's 40%. If you reach, 40% in free and reduced meals that you served, if you reach those two levels, then we'll qualify you for 2 and 7 cents. And I'm sorry, I misspoke. For 2 cents, it's 60% of free and reduced meals. And your menu performance certification, for most schools, that's already been taken care of. So what happens with that is um, we'll go in, and actually the specialist will go in, look at your past menus and your upcoming menus and check for certain health standards. And based on that, they'll qualify you for that extra 7 cents. Now, I'm a little unsure of that, what's going to happen with that process this year, because we really don't need it. But if there are any new schools on the line, I'm sure that your specialist will reach out with more information if there's any more information for this year. But I'm not 100% sure that there will be. And then once you're qualified for that, you basically stay qualified. Now, the 2 cents, we qualify you each year. We look at we don't look at past year performance. We look at performance from 2 years ago. So each year we're going to qualify you for the 2 cents, and you're going to get potentially an additional 9 cents for each lunch. Okay. Now, I kind of feel some buzzing, so I'm going to go back and check. Oh, okay. And Alex Dobbs says they will be certifying schools this year, but towards the end of this year, since 7 cents is not applicable this year. Okay, so for any new schools on the line, the specialist or whoever will be reaching out in March, and we'll be looking at your menus. Oh, and any SFAs that were new last year and were not certified, they'll be reaching out to you guys, okay? So, I'm not going to say it's a simple process. Well, for the school, it may be a simple process, but they'll lead you through that process and try to get you certified for the 7 cents. Cool. Okay, and like we said before, this doesn't apply to SSO rates. So for this year, you won't need it, but for next year, we'll definitely look into making sure that you get your maximum rate possible. Now, severe need breakfast. Severe need breakfast is pretty easy. It's also based on past performance, your past 2 years, and what you did in lunch. So as long as 40% of your lunches are free and reduced, then you will automatically qualify for severe need. Now this simply means that if you guys remember the chart I just showed, this simply means that if you qualify for severe need, then you're going to get reimbursed for breakfast at that higher rate. Cool. Okay, so any additional questions? And I'm going to go back to the chat real quick on severe need or 2 cents or 7 cents. Anybody? Okay. Well, if you do, please ask, and then I'll head back here and double check. Okay, Healthy Schools Act. So if you're doing SSO, if you're doing Nslp, you'll see a second claim form. And that second claim form is to get reimbursed under the Healthy Schools Act. Now, what exactly is a Healthy Schools Act? It's kind of our answer to the federal legislation. So what we do is we pair, in the claims world, we pair the HSA claim with the lunch claim, right? So if you qualify for NSLP or SSO, you also can qualify for the Healthy Schools Act. And for most of you, this happens during your application. And there are situations where schools elect not to for different reasons, but that's really in the minority. I think out of the 65 schools that we have in the program, maybe a couple years, one or two haven't done it. But essentially, it's an extra reimbursement for your lunch and breakfast programs. So when we say that DC eliminated the reduced categories for breakfast, that I think it's 30 cents that kids would have to pay for a reduced breakfast. What we do is we reimburse the school through this act. And so this act provides for not only claims reimbursements, but it's also a comprehensive package of different enrichment activities for schools based around health, nutrition, and food. So other things that are under this act are things like the school gardens that some of you have set up. And believe me, I'm thoroughly impressed with what schools are doing in their gardening programs. I think 2 weeks ago, I had the opportunity to participate in school garden tour. If you've never done it and want to do some biking in DC with a group of people, definitely the way to go, because we visited 3 schools and their gardens were simply amazing. And I couldn't believe that, you know, we're not quite a concrete jungle, but there's a lot of concrete out here. But to see some really beautiful gardens in the middle of schools was amazing. So, you know, that's all to say that the Healthy Schools Act, um, provides for all of these enrichment activities and provides for extra reimbursement for you guys and other different things. But if you'd like to know more about what exactly the Healthy Schools Act does, there is a separate training. Don't worry, you don't have to attend. But if you're home and there's nothing to watch on Netflix, Hulu, Prime, and all the other streaming services, we've got an articulate training for you, and you could just stream that and, have fun learning about the Healthy Schools Act. I'm sure a lot of you will go home and do that tonight. Okay. So you've heard me talk a lot about Orchard. Orchard is simply our main platform to interact with you guys for the NSLP program. That's where you'll fill out your applications. That's where you'll check on the statuses of different things. And next year, that's where you will submit your claim. So it's very important that you keep your information updated in Orchard, and below is an all-inclusive list of the different programs we manage through Orchard. And then some of you this year will get reviewed, and that review process will also happen in Orchard. So trust me when I say it's critical that you keep Orchard as updated as possible, especially with your contact information. The easier it is for us to reach out to the main contact for the application, for claims, for the review, it just makes everything easier all around. So once you fill out your application, you'll get this approval letter. And this approval letter is very important because it'll tell you the things you qualify for, right? So in this 1, 2, 3, in about the third paragraph down, you see that my academy, which I am the director of operations. Before I was the principal, I got demoted without even knowing. It shows that Aussie Academy qualifies for the following things: the National School Lunch Program, the School Breakfast Program, severe need. So Aussie Academy did qualify for severe need. It can also get reimbursed under the Healthy Schools Act. I get the additional 2 cents, and I get the additional 7 cents. So when you look at your letter, you'll know you're qualified for 7 cents when you see the certified performance-based menu reimbursement. Again, once you get qualified for that, you never have to worry about it again. Just make sure that you are following the nutrition standards when it comes to all your meals. But believe me, the specialist will remind you of that if you aren't. Okay. And then everyone got an additional approval letter if you're under the seamless summer option, just saying basically you're approved to use that option this year. Man, I can't believe I accidentally demoted myself to director of operations. I felt another little buzz. I'm just going to take a look. Okay. Cool. And Lizette says that they review nutrition standards at their time of review. But trust me, if you're getting a review, you'll fully understand what you're getting yourself into. And then just quickly, I want to remind everyone that make sure that you are updating your contacts. Make sure that especially your signatures or people who can officially sign for claims stays updated. And make sure it's multiple people that know how to not only do a claim, but review a claim and are able to sign a claim. Because there have been situations in the past where, unfortunately, the administrative staff moved on and no one else in Orchard was designated as a signature. So technically they couldn't submit a claim because, we can't just have random people sign off on claims and us have no backup to say, yeah, the school designated them as a signature for claims. So make sure that you're keeping that 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 information updated. And if you need to add additional users or things to Orchard, please make sure to follow that link below that says Orchard request form. That'll let you essentially sign up people within your organization to be able to use Orchard. Okay, so now we're going into kind of the meat and bones of this training. And we're going to go into the claim development piece, and I'm going to get out this PowerPoint and pull up this NSLP form. Okay, wrong one. Okay, guys. So, and Nigel, can you just confirm for me that you're seeing the Excel form? Just want to be sure.
Confirmed.
Thank you. So basically, I'm going to run through the NSLP form really quickly because I want to show you some things. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about Orchard and how that process is going to move into Orchard, and many of you are never going to see this form ever again. However, what this form does and why I'm not only running through an SSO form is it forces you to set up certain things within your background processes that will be useful for Orchard. So whenever I introduce this form, I always talk about this edit check page. Okay. Now, regardless of, and I think we're like 95% there on using Orchard next year. It's just, it's a new database. Well, it's a new process within a database. So, I never trust anyone that tells me, hey, this is going to be 100% available in X amount of time because it's technology and sometimes mishaps do happen. But I think we're like 95% there. So I am more trusting than anything else in the world right now with Orchard. But even so, you're still going to have to submit edit checks via Orchard. And when we talk about edit checks, we simply talk about most of you are in the operations kind of finance part of the school, I think. And so to us and to USDA, edit checks are really the backup to the number of claims. the number of meals that you are claiming. Okay, so for us, this is kind of like a summary of the receipts, right? So you are all very familiar with the process of serving a meal. You know, basically you take point of service and then you summarize that point of service. And a lot of you have either an electronic POS system or you grab those tally sheets at the end of the day and have another way of um, keeping track of point of service on a monthly, quarterly, and yearly basis, right? So what this is this provides us as a state agency the monthly backup to the number of meals you're claiming. So what we ask from you is that however you maintain POS, you be able to break that POS down by month and also by day so that we can then verify the number of meals that you're claiming on your claim sheet. So I'm just going to run through how this works really quickly so that you guys get a sense of how your backend processes should be set up. I'm just making up numbers right now. Okay. So when I say that you have to break down your POS by day, simply whatever's, if it's manual, if it's Orchard, we're always going to ask for how many kids you served every day. And most of you will either transition back to applications and will have free, reduced, and paid meals, or you'll be a CEP school and you'll break down your meals between free and paid. So you're also going to have to give us a breakdown of that. And just to let you guys know, in Orchard, we're hoping, well, no, in Orchard, you're going to be able to submit your electronic POS through the system. So it won't be as labor intensive. We're hoping that it's going to be easier. And it's just telling me right now. That's one of the little tricks with this workbook that you'll never see is that I put 101 reduced meals and my enrollment's only 100. So it's telling me that that doesn't make sense, essentially. And then I have to revise that number. I'm kind of gonna miss the form as much as I, hate making these forms. I'm kind of really gonna miss them. At the end of the day, it's all nostalgia factor. I'm like, I don't know. I'll put them on a floppy and burn them in effigy just as a goodbye, like a Viking funeral type thing. Anyhow, um, yeah, I have no idea even where I can get a floppy disk. Maybe on eBay. So after I've done all that and I've provided, the number of meals by day, it'll give me a breakdown on the summary sheet and it'll tell me, exactly what to put on that claim page. And I'm just going to show, oh, wait, I can't show that yet. And so now that we get in this front page, for most of you, this is really what you're going to fill out with SSO. And it's, sorry, one sec, let me fix the, it was a little small, so I'm fixing the zoom. So please make sure that you're selecting an accurate claim month, because that's one of the things we really check for. So let's say I'm submitting October, I'll submit October. The year will automatically change, so you don't ever have to mess with the year. Doesn't apply this year, but if it were, because you're gonna get new forms in January, but if it were January, it would automatically change to 22. But let's go back to October. Okay, and a lot of people ask me, if I revise a claim, do I have to hit amended? The answer in most cases is no. The only reason you would select yes on amended is, let's say there was an instance where you submitted a claim and you already received payment for that claim, but then you noticed that there was an error in that claim, and then you had to resubmit your claim. At that point, your claim is amended because we're either going to have to give you more money or take back some of that money. So in a lot of ways, we see the submission of claims as really in draft form until we pay it out. Once it's paid out, then yes, just, make sure that you say it is amended, but most likely it'll be no. And I feel a lot of buzzing, so I'm just going to double check. Okay, where would the letter be housed for Orchard? Yeah, so it's in your application and it's under that field that says state agency determinations. And it's labeled as notice of determination. And so, once you go into your application, you'll see there's a tab for state agency determinations, and that'll include basically um, all official communication on applications. So actually all of you, unless you're not doing SSO, you'll have two nods or notices of determination. And those approval letters will be contained within those two. And then thank you. Oh, sorry, notifications. Yeah. Sorry, I always go one above. And then actually, Alex, can you come off mute? And I don't know if you know the answer to where FRP data numbers come from. Is it through SLED? I'm not 100% sure. Alex? Okay, well, while Alex is getting herself together, I will continue. But Jess, sorry, I don't, you know what it is, Jess? I keep thinking back to Jessica Jones, and I'm sorry for getting your name wrong. But that's what's stuck in my head. But I will make sure to only call you Jess. Okay. Okay, so let's continue with this, and we owe Jess an answer on the FRP data numbers. Okay, so I'm gonna continue filling this out. And then, your phone number is great. And some of these forms have facts on them. Just FYI, I've taken it off the SSO form, but I didn't off the Nslp form. But like, if you want to provide a fax number, great. I actually have no idea where to get a fax here from, so you will never get a fax from me. If you get a fax from me, it's basically spam, and I would report it to someone. And then really quickly, this next general data section is important for us, and make sure that you're filling it out correctly. Last year, I was a little bit lax on having people fill this out, but this year, I'm trying to get you guys back to making sure that you're filling this out correctly. So numbers of schools participating, I'm just going to put 1. Now, you don't have to fill it out for some schools. They do have multiple campuses, and they do have multiple designations for their breakfast. So they may have 1 school in regular breakfast and 4 schools in severe need breakfast. But for most schools, you either have 1 type of breakfast. So Aussie Academy has 1 campus. They serve severe need breakfast. So I'm going to put a 1 here. And then we do serve snacks, I think. Number of serving days. Okay, guys, so this is important. We need to know the number of days you actually served the meal, not the number of days that school was open. Okay, so there is a difference in that. Let's take, for example, Aussie Academy. Now, Aussie Academy, tomorrow they're going to have a half day. It's professional development for teachers. I don't know how realistic that scenario is. So in October, they're going to serve lunch 20 days, and they're going to serve breakfast 20 days. But since tomorrow is a half day, we're not going to get around to snack, and therefore didn't serve snack um that day. So snack will only be 19 serving days. Same thing applies to breakfast. If there was a magical snowstorm on Monday and it lasted for an hour and kids couldn't get to school till 11. I don't know if that scenario makes any more sense than my original scenario, but for some reason we did not serve breakfast that day. Well, then instead of 20 days, now breakfast is down to 19. Okay? So just make sure that when you're giving us number of serving days, that you are, making it as accurate as possible, and that, yeah, you can have three different serving days in a claim, because there might be instances where a meal wasn't served when the other meals were. Now, enrollment. Okay, enrollment, August through basically November, December-ish. For most schools, your enrollment does flex. Oh my God, fluctuate. I can't say the word right now. It does change from time to time. Fluctuate. Um, and so make sure that when you're giving us enrollment, that it's your highest enrollment during that month, right? So in October, if on October 1st I had 100, October 15th I had 95, then at the end of October I had 103, I would, for enrollment, I will list that 103 number, okay? Because we know that, especially during the first quarter of the school year, those numbers really tend to fluctuate. So make sure that you are just giving us the highest enrollment you had during that month. Now, most likely, your lunch and breakfast enrollment will pretty much stay the same. Snack enrollment, it may change, and please get, and let's say, for example, only a certain subset of your school population receives snacks, so maybe it's part of a homework club that not everyone really participates in. Make sure you're giving us the enrollment for that subset and not the school enrollment. Okay, so let's say in this school, snack was part of the homework club and that not everyone participated in the homework club, but 90 kids did. Were enrolled as part of that homework club. Okay, now typically in this scenario, your number approved for free would be based on your applications. But for most of you this year, it's just going to be your enrollment because everyone is going to get a free meal. Okay. And your reduced number will basically be 0. But for those of you that are still in that SLP program and do applications, then it's based on the number of approved free applications. But for this example, we'll just put 103. We'll list our 0 there. And the same thing for reduced. Reduced is always going to be it's always going to be derived from your number of approved reduced applications. Okay. Now, total monthly attendance. It's basically how many kids attended your school. It's not based on how many kids participated in your meal program. Okay. So, in this scenario, yeah, I'm going to show you a couple of things, but let's just say, and a good way for you to measure whether your attendance is correct is just simply to multiply the number of serving days by the number enrolled, right? So in this scenario, sorry, no, I'm not saying that right. In this, sorry, I confused myself a little bit. Give me one sec. Okay. So what I was saying is if you multiply number of serving days by enrollment, that should really give you a good idea of what your attendance should be capped at, right? So if my highest enrollment was 103 and I had 20 serving days in the school, I know that my enrollment can't be above 26. I'm sorry, my monthly attendance cannot be above 2060 because then my enrollment is off or my number of serving days is off. So that's just a good guideline and a good trick for you guys to know that, hey, my enrollment shouldn't exceed this number. So for right now, I'm just going to set my enrollment at 15. Sorry, my attendance at 1500 because we all know that, kids get sick. Okay, and then I'm going to throw down some numbers here and show you guys some other stuff. Oh, what was it? That's not going to make sense. So typically at this point, you can go back to your summary and look at your number of meals served, but I'm not going to do that because it's not going to make sense with the other numbers. But I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this. Okay. That should work. And trust me, I hear a lot of buzzing and I will get to it soon. I'm just going to finish with this. Or maybe Alex answering your question. Okay. And let's say 700. Okay. So in this scenario, all these meals made sense, right? It's telling me that on average, for lunch, out of the 103 kids enrolled, 40 participated in the lunch program, 48 participated in the breakfast program, and 37 participated in the snack program. But let's say that instead of 300, I put 1300, and here I put 1700. Oh, well, that did that. Okay, fine. Let's use the one upstairs. Okay, you're gonna see that the form went a little bit crazy, right? Okay, so let's assume for argument's sake, oh, I needed way more than that. Seriously? Okay, it's actually doing what I wanted to do. So let's assume for argument's sake that my meal numbers are correct and you see an error message here and you see an error message there. Well, the form is double checking the meal numbers against your number of serving days, enrollment, and monthly attendance, right? So it's saying, wait a sec, how did you serve 2,900 meals if you only had 1,500 students show up throughout the month? That doesn't make sense. So in order to fix that problem, I'm either gonna have to double check my number of meals, but in this scenario, I've decided that they're accurate, or I'm gonna have to double check my attendance. So I think if I throw in 15,000 here, it'll tell me that it's wrong because my enrollment times my number of serving days is only 3,000. So I think if I put 3,000 here, it'll fix all the problems. Nope. Okay, so that fixed the problem. So this is just a quick scenario on how to make these numbers make sense. So if you see error messages, double check your meal numbers. If your meal numbers are correct, then the problem really is with your monthly attendance or your enrollment. So make sure that you're double checking that as well. And if you get stuck, like always, feel free to reach out to me and I can help, figure out any number mystery. That's, one of my favorite parts of the job. Okay, so I'm going to stop here real quick and just double check. It was Alex. Okay. Chris, for those of you not reading, he asked, does the number free reflect only those that submitted a farm app or a direct cert as well? Hopefully all of you know the difference between format and direct cert, but if you don't, please feel free to ask. Alex replies, both direct certification kits qualify as free as well as students that submit a qualifying farm application, okay? So the answer to that question is both. And then to answer Jess's question, the the uh, the FRP numbers come from the farm application that the school collects. SLED will give you the direct certification kits, but also the free. Everything else is from the farm apps. If you are an SSO, you will not need the FRP numbers for this year for your claim. Okay? Jess, I hope that answers your question, but if not, please feel free to ask a follow-up question. Okay. And that's it for that. Now, oh, one sec, I'm on the wrong thing. So, SSO, guys, the same thing. Please make sure you're filling out the data. This form's a lot simpler. All you need to do is remember your meals all qualify as free. Okay. So essentially in these boxes, I want, you should just list the number of meals that you served. So if you serve 1,000 breakfasts, put 1,000 here, and it'll show me errors because I haven't filled out the data portions up top. And please remember that you could only claim 2 meals under SSO, okay? And for most of you, again, that'll be breakfast and lunch. We did leave the snack option on there just in case a school wanted to do something different. While we suggest that you always claim for breakfast and lunch, ultimately the the option is up to you guys. But it's a really strong recommendation on our behalf because of what I explained earlier. The other thing I wanted to say is enrollment. Okay, so because of the pandemic, because a lot of schools were open sites, and open sites basically meant that anyone from the community, any kid from the community or any student from the community could come into your school and receive a meal. We had to change the way we looked at enrollment, right? Because if you had 100 kids enrolled, but 500 kids from the community or students from the community came to your school to pick up meals, then your enrollment wouldn't mesh with the number of meals, right? Because basically you would always get an error message on our forms because the form would tell you based on your enrollment, there's no way you could have served this number of meals, right? So in order to fix that, we basically said for enrollment, um, put down the highest number of meals served, right? So if I served 3,000 breakfasts, but only 2,500 lunches, then I would put that 3,000 under enrollment. This year, we're asking you to do something a little bit different. And by that we mean is if you're a closed site, which means that you only serve your school population, then you should be putting your actual enrollment. and not your highest meal number. Okay. But if you're an open site, which some of you are, please continue to put your highest meal number because we don't want that enrollment number to, provide that error message. So I'm going to stop briefly here and go back to the chat and see if there are any additional questions. Oh, Tiffany, that's the next thing I'm going to do. So I got you there. If you haven't received the SSO form, just email me and I will send you an SSO form. And Marjorie, yes, you are submitting one form for SSO and one for SNAC. And so, okay, so basically that's pretty much it with the SSO form. Of course, you're going to have to go in, you're going to have to fill out the claim month and everything like that, and number of school participating, number of serving days, enrollment, number approved for free. That's basically your enrollment, and then your total monthly attendance. Cool. Now, oh, and guys, and I didn't say it before, but please make sure that you're going to your HSA claim, which will be automatically filled out, and make sure you're signing this as well, okay? So you guys see that once I filled in the numbers in my SSO claim, and this works the same way for Nslp, this will automatically fill in. All you have to do with this form is sign the bottom, and all this other stuff will self-populate as well, as long as you fill it out on the SSO claim form or the NSLP claim form. Now, for those of you that do serve SNAC in your school, you are going to have to submit a second claim form, and that's the NSLP SNAC only form. Okay, so what we did this year, instead of giving you kind of that like full claim form, we broke it down, and this form only applies to SNAC. So if your school is under SSO and also serving SNAC, you'll have to claim under NSLP. Basically the same claim form as the other two claim types we talked about, but it's a little bit simpler. Again, contact information, number of schools participating, number of serving needs, enrollment, and I probably should have taken out reduced, but just give me a number of free. Please put 0 for reduced in your total monthly attendance. And then for those of you that don't have electronic POS, we gave you the added checks in the back, okay? So like the NSLP form, you fill out the date, and nifty little trick, but if you drag down, it should populate the dates. For some of you, for September, you're going to require more than 20 days. If you do, please feel free to email me, and I will email you back a slightly longer edit check page. But for most of you, 20 days for September should be enough. And then, like the other forms, you just fill in the number of snacks. And why 20 days is enough is that, the 5th and 6th were probably weekends and you don't serve snacks on weekends. And then it'll give you a summary of everything. Oh, and one more thing I want to say about this. I accidentally wrote snack total at the bottom, forgetting that I had put the formula on top. So sorry about that, but it'll give you the total of snacks up here. So sorry about that, guys. When I send out the new SSO form, I will make sure to correct that. But it is adding up. It's just at the top and not the bottom. Probably gonna, honestly, with the new one, I'm probably just gonna leave it at the bottom. It's just that, like 10 years ago, we had a snack only form for a different reason, and I just grabbed that, and in my head, I don't know. It was a long day that day. Anyhow, okay, so then you do the same thing. You put the number of snacks, and You sign at the bottom. The only difference with the snack form is there is no HSA claim, okay? HSA does not provide funding for snacks, so there's no reason to have an HSA claim. So if you're an SSO school with snack, you're gonna have to send in 3 claim forms: the SSO form, the HSA claim form, and the snack form. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there really quickly and check the chat. Tiffany, the extra tabs are not for anything. If you only have one school and one school is participating, you can use that as the one tab as your edit checks. But if you have electronic POS, you don't really have to use that either. You can just submit your electronic POS with your snack claim form, and that's fine. You just see 6 in there because I think that was the maximum number of potential sites that a school could have. Um, when I design these claim forms, I have to design them for everyone. So there are some schools with at least 6 sites. So when you receive the claim form, it just has, I think, 1, but feel free to use it. Okay, so, and I'm gonna go to Jess's question, but to follow up with Tiffany, um, the 3 things you're gonna have to submit with your claim are the SSO form, SSO claim form. I'm sorry, and I said 3, but it's actually, oh, it is 3. SSO claim form, your HSA claim for your SSO form. So, those 2 claims together, and then your snack claim form. Okay. So this year it's going to be divided up into 3 claim forms versus 2, because typically it's your NSLP claim form or your HSA claim form. But now, since we're doing SSO, you have to get your snack. Yeah, everyone else does too. But I like to highlight HSA guys because it's a claim too. And with snack, make sure you're either submitting your edit checks or your electronic POS so that I can verify your snacks. Okay. Now, one quick second, I'm just going to read through what Jess said. Okay, Jess, I don't know the answer right away to that, so we're gonna come back to that question, okay? Yeah, I don't want to give you the incorrect answer, but Alex, if you want to read through it and provide an answer, that would be great too. Okay, guys, so we're gonna go back to the PowerPoint. Whoops, give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so common problems with data inputs, pretty easy: typing errors, math problems, and we kind of talked through it when we were going through the different claim forms. So again, just make sure that if you see error messages anywhere, double check your meal numbers and definitely double check your enrollment and attendance numbers, because a lot of times that's the issue. And I do send claim forms back. I do send claim forms back if they have errors due to those, inputs. And then unusual month-to-month variations basically means if, like, September's kind of a tricky month because, again, there's a lot of fluctuation, but like if in October you served a total of 5,000 meals and then in November you suddenly served 15,000 meals, I'm going to reach out and be like, hey, did your school triple in size, or do you want to look at this number again? It's stuff like that where we're like, hey, this isn't calculating correctly. So just make sure that, like, you're double checking these numbers. And then one last thing I didn't put in here, but I do want to make sure that everyone's aware of is on any claim form, we do need a signature, and that's why I highlight the HSA claim form, because a lot of times people miss signing that claim form. And unfortunately, I cannot pay out any claim form that doesn't have a signature. So, again, it happens from time to time, but make sure that you are putting down a signature on all the claim forms, okay? Um, okay, and then if we do, um, if 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 the claim gets corrected for any reason, make sure that you're kind of removing that initial claim submission from your records, because I've had situations in the past where, they're like, hey, this payment isn't correct. And I'm like, well, we did revise it and things like that. So just make sure that on your end, you're keeping accurate records as well. And then data inconsistencies. Okay, so we do. So the reason why I emphasize the application so much is we do match what you put in your application. Um, you do put in your application with what, sorry, with what you put on your claim. So this year, I've gone through some of the September stuff. I'm like halfway there. I'm almost there. But one thing we've noticed is that a lot of you are didn't accurately reflect the number of serving days you were going to have in September in your application. So we're asking a lot of you to make sure to go back and revise the serving days in your application. Okay. Hopefully this will just be with September, but if I could ask everyone on this call for October, make sure that you are going back and referencing your application. And if there's a difference between the number of serving days in your claim and on your application, just go ahead and change your application and make sure that those two numbers sync up. Also, with enrollment, yes, enrollment. I know that when you were filling out your applications, you didn't have a good sense of enrollments, but now that you do, make sure that you're going back into your applications and updating that enrollment, because unfortunately, that enrollment in your application kind of blocks me from paying out your claim if the enrollment on your claim is higher than the enrollment on your application. So when you figure out your enrollment with your claim, make sure you're going back and referencing your application just to make sure that you know your application enrollment is higher or is at your claim enrollment. Okay? Any questions about that? I just kind of threw a lot at you, and I'm gonna double check the chat real quick. Oh, nope. Cool. Okay, but if you do, please feel free to ask them. Okay, so claim submission. Hit this. These are the due dates for the claims. You and I know I'm a little late on this one, but you should start getting your first reminders for claims 7 days after the 10th. The due date for any claim is the 10th, the 10th after the claim month is done. So for September it was October 10th. And it was October 10th. And then you'll get a reminder every 7 days after that. And you get 3 reminders. So just make sure that you guys are submitting these claims on time. We do understand that sometimes you can't get it in by the 10th. That's not a problem. But make sure that's not a consistent thing. And also, you guys do see that final submission date. So for September, that date is November 29th. That means that we must have an accurate, correct claim from any school by the 29th. If we don't, then it's considered late, and we're going to go through what that looks like shortly. Cool. Basically, like I said before, any claim submission, we look at really as a draft until we go through, processing it. So in that time, oh, sorry, I'm actually talking about the wrong thing. So any claim submission, please make sure that if you're an SSO, you submit those 3 claims, and uh, submit those 3 claims with the signatures, and that you submit your edit checks or your electronic POS form with your snack claim, and all claims have to go to nslp.claims@dc.gov. Make sure that you guys are submitting your claims there. This is done so that if Dario one day falls down a hole and they can't find Dario, then whoever they choose to start processing claims has all your claim information there. Or, less drastically, if I decide to move on, then they have the entire history of your claim submissions and the back and forth in that email. So for us, that's really kind of, you know, keeping continuity, and making sure that these are financial documents, and we just want to be sure that we're as accurate as possible. So this really helps, that you submit all your claims and claim correspondence to that inbox. Authorized signatures I touched on. Make sure that you're keeping them up to date. And if you do need to add or change, that you communicate that out. Okay, late submissions, everyone's favorite thing. There is a process for late submissions, but it takes more work, and you only get one late submission every 3 years, okay? So there is a process known as an exemption, and a school can file for an exemption, but as a state agency, we can only award one exemption every 3 years. Now, I will say, if you were here when the pandemic first started, you should know that there was a grace period for claim submissions that, basically March through June, I think if they were late, then you didn't actually use up your exemption. So, I just want to make sure that everyone was aware of that. But otherwise, if you don't submit an accurate and correct claim prior to that 6-day window, then it's considered late, and you're going to have to go through the exemption process. Basically, you're going to have to submit a letter saying what happened and how you're going to ensure that it doesn't happen again. And then you're going to submit your claim. And you're going to submit it in a packet, electronic packet. You don't actually have to print anything out. Believe me, I don't ever want anything to come to me via paper anymore. But anyhow, and then we are going to review that, and I'm going to review the claim and then kick it up the ladder to Liz Leach, who all of you know, I think. And she'll make a final determination on whether to award that exemption or not. Okay. In most cases, it does get awarded, but we always discourage its use because, again, you only get one every 3 years. Now, I will say that's per program. So under the NSLP bucket is snack, breakfast, and lunch, right? But then if you are part of FFVP, you get an additional exemption for the FFVP program. Now, they're not interchangeable if anyone's thinking that. So you get one for NSLP, one for FFVP. If you use up NSLPs, you can't use FFVPs on NSLPs. Just want to make that clear. And then, so please make sure that you are submitting your claims in on time. Now, let's say you get your claim in on time within the 60-day window. Let's say you get October's claim in on time. And then in January, for some reason, you decide to audit October and notice that your meal number was incorrect. There was a snafu with your electronic point of service, and some meals got counted that shouldn't have been counting. So instead of 1,000 meals, you should have only claimed for 800 meals. Now, at that point, it's considered a downward adjustment. So if ever you're in a situation where you know you have to reduce the number of meals you claim for, you can essentially submit a claim with a downward adjustment at any time. Okay? Again, I'm going to say that again. If it's a downward adjustment, a claim can be revised at any time. Now, in the same scenario, let's say for October you claimed 1,000 meals and it actually should have been 1,200 meals. Then that's considered an upward adjustment. And unfortunately, you cannot submit an upward adjustment at any time. And at that point, if you did want to claim the additional 200 meals, you would have to take an exemption. And, at that point, you'd really have to discuss with your leadership or, the deciding bodies in your school whether it's worth it to take that exemption for those additional meals. So in summary, downward adjustments can be made on claims at any time. Upward adjustments can only be made within that 60-day deadline unless you want to take that exemption. Okay? Any questions about that? I'm going to move on, but please drop your questions about that in the chat. Okay, and then finally, your claim is submitted. I've reviewed it. The school programs manager has reviewed it. We send it off to OCFO, which is the Office of Chief Financial Officer, and that's when you receive your payment. Now, we'll say we'd like to think this process takes about 30 days. In September, it's going to be a little bit slower because, everyone's just gearing up, and instead of 30 days it might take anywhere from 30 to 60 days in September, but then in October things should normalize and it should flow as normal. Payment issuance, basically we pay you out electronically, and unless you're receiving check, but I don't think too many of you are receiving actual live checks, but one of the things with DC government payments, and I know that there's a lot of people working hard to solve this issue, is that they come in lump sums. So, a lot of times I see that our payments are combined with technology grant payments. And so one payment or one check is sent out for both things. So if you're ever curious on the breakdown of what that payment or check includes, you can visit this link, and we'll also provide this link. And it'll give you a good snapshot of what's included in that check or payment you just received. But sometimes also it can be a little bit hard to determine which payment is for what. So in that case, please feel free to reach out and we'll do more research on our end to make sure that your books are reconciling properly. Okay? And then this is just quick verbiage on how long you should keep your records. Any records related to our program should be retained and available for a period of 3 years plus the current year. So it's 2021, right? So all your 2020, 2021, 22 records should be on hand. And then we should be able to go back 3 years and review those records. This is just, again, in case USDA decides to drop by and is in, in kind of a knack for reviewing records, they should have the ability to review 3 years back. That doesn't ever happen, but we should still have the ability to do so. And then, just quickly, we provide confirmation letters if we assess and recoup any overpayments. And then, so what I should say is that anytime there is a change in finances in terms of your payments, you will receive a confirmation letter. So if you're going through the review process and we have to take back some funds, you'll receive a summary of how we did that, or what we're going to do. Any additional payments that come from us, we will send out a letter for explaining it and explaining the amount you'll receive. And guys, please hold on to those letters. In this past year, I think we've sent 3 additional payments. Breakfast subsidy, cost reimbursement subsidy, and the state revenue match. And there have been a lot of requests to resend those letters. So guys, just do me a little favor and try to hold on to those original emails with the letters. Saves me a lot of time, but I'm always happy to resend letters because I know you guys have to go through your own internal reconciliation processes. And this year we foresee sending out again. There's this breakfast subsidy program. That you have the ability to apply for and get, and we foresee sending that out. For more information, please contact one of your specialists, and they'll be more than happy to talk to you about the breakfast subsidy program. And we're definitely going to send out the state revenue match, and that's just the pot of money that we set aside each year as a state agency, and then we divvy it up based on past performance, and you get a piece of that pot of money. That should go out in February, because we base it off of October meal numbers. So another reason why you should be turning in your October claim. And so just to give you a good sense of that, and cost reimbursement was a one-time payment. I don't know if all of you've got it, but the majority of you did get it. We don't foresee that happening anytime soon or ever again. It was kind of a response to the pandemic type thing. And then, if you do file for an exemption, we'll provide you with a letter stating our decision. So just make sure that you're holding on and maintaining the records of official communications we sent out. Okay. And my contact information. Now I'm going to go back to the chat real quick. And sorry, and just check out the questions. Okay. So Jess is going to reach out to Alex or somebody towards the end of the week. Yeah, so the reason Tanya, the reason I'm referring to September claims is that the month of October isn't quite done. So most of you will still serve meals until Friday, and October claims aren't due till November 10th. September, we're kind of still in the September window, and for those of you that haven't gotten your claim in, you should probably start getting your claim in. So Tanya, that's why I'm referring to September so much, because the month of October isn't done quite yet, so there's still more meals to count. Okay, guys, so we've reached the end of our training. I wanted to double check if there are any questions or anything anyone would like me to go over again. I'm gonna give you guys about 3 minutes. And I could have some coffee while I'm waiting. Okay. Now also, I did say that also if you need one-on-one help with your claim, that I set some time aside to do that. So anyone that's interested, please also write that in the chat now. Great, Jason. Okay. Okay. Okay, so what I'm thinking right now is maybe in this group setting, it wouldn't be the best thing to kind of one-on-one TA, but I'm gonna what I'm gonna do is anyone who says that they're interested in one-on-one TA, I'm gonna please note that in the chat, and I'll go through the chat and schedule kind of like 20-30 minute meetings with you guys just to answer any additional follow-up questions or just to kind of break it down more. Jason, I get it, man. Like, there's a lot of technical stuff that when I first got here, I have no idea what these people are talking about. And Bernal and Hazel, yeah, but anyone else interested in kind of a one-on-one follow-up, please note that in the chat now. And um, I will send out emails to you guys, and we'll just schedule some time to sit down one-on-one and go through some of the stuff that you need follow-up on. Okay. Cool. Okay, so okay, that's fine, Jess. I mean, the best thing to do, honestly, for those of you that haven't filled out your claim yet, because like I get it, like you see kind of this weird Excel worksheet and you're like, it's so complicated. But I think that if you go through it, you'll see like that you could probably complete like 95% of it. And there's a couple of questions that might help you kind of organize your thoughts. So what I would suggest is that please try to fill out the claim form first, and then that'll give us a good starting point in our one-on-one discussions, okay? So please try to do that, and then I'll reach out to everyone who says they're interested, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we're gonna leave this chat open for a little while, but just as a closing, if everyone could just like share one word or one phrase about how they're feeling after this training, that would be amazing. And we'll follow up with anyone else who asked an additional question or needs some one-on-one assistance. Okay, guys? So we're gonna leave it open for Nigel. I need you to come back on. Provide me with guidance. I
Yeah,
guess
I'm
till
here.
I guess we'll leave it open for the rest till 12 and then
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna go off camera, guys, but we're gonna stay on and see if we can answer anything or yeah, we'll just leave it open. But thank you. I'm gonna let you close it, Nigel.
No, that's fine. As folks leave out, those who want to stay on and ask questions, you can come off mute for the next 15 minutes or so and ask any of those questions. Of course, knowing that Dario is going to reach out and do some one-on-one technical assistance with those who have requested in the chat. But I'm seeing lots of love in the chat for you, Dario. And I'm glad that I see a couple of people are feeling much, much better about this process after participating today. So Dario, big kudos to you and thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Hazel Gregg, and my question is, how do I find out where we are in this process? We're new to it. This is the first year we're going to be participating, and to my knowledge, all we've done is submit our application. I don't think we've gotten to the claim process as of yet. So
Okay.
how do I feel like I'm kind of coming in the middle, and so the information was helpful, but I don't know, where we are in the process. So how would I find that out?
Okay. Which school are you with?
DuPont Park Adventist School.
Okay, great. Yeah. So with you, I mean, I think because you guys are new SFA, let's just go ahead and after this training's done, I'll schedule some time with your school. Whoever you actually, the best thing to do is because there's probably several people who kind of want to understand this process. Why don't you send me some times of when your school's available, and then we'll coordinate something.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, guys, we're gonna leave the chat open for a couple more minutes, but for all of you that, you know, kind of don't have any questions, thank you so much for attending this claims training. I know I threw a lot of information out there for you guys, but I know all of you are troopers, and thank you so much for what you guys are doing at your schools. You know, I know that our team says this a lot, but we are truly impressed by all the work you're doing every day. And like I said, some of these kids like really need these food programs that you're providing. So thank you so much.